When Final Fantasy VII Remake released in 2020, I was initially concerned that these remakes would be the equivalent of taking 5 hours of gameplay from the original and stretching out over a 40+ hour open world game. And to that point, Remake did feel like a weird sectioned off experience of something far bigger. On top of that, standing amongst the wreckage of the Midgar Expressway, looking out into a vast open world, I did feel uneasy, yet excited by the unending possibilities that faced me going forward. Fast forward to the reveal of Rebirth, and my fears were immediately swept away by elation and eagerness.
He wants to finish what he started. He wants to reclaim his birthright and rule over the planet with Genova at his side.
Recapturing that wondrous sensation of a cultural touchstone like Final Fantasy VII is like trying to catch lightning in a bottle. There is an astonishing number of iconic moments and characters that need to be revamped, and of course a story that is near and dear to many players' hearts. Now, having put in countless hours into Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I can safely say that the devs know what they are doing. Despite the numerous changes to both the world and story, some little, some massive, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is a joyous adventure, whose story deals as much with preventing the end of the world as it does dealing with family drama. A magnificent modern manifestation of everything that I loved about the 1997 original, and in my opinion, this may be the greatest RPG game Square Enix has ever released. Rebirth starts out at a breakneck pace and wastes no time reintroducing you to Cloud and of course the one-winged angel himself, Sephiroth. From the first moments of its extravagant story, Rebirth puts the focus squarely on its characters. Squarely? Get it?
Hey, Sephiroth. What you got there?
Leave me be.
More so than perhaps any Final Fantasy that has come before, the friends and foes of this whimsical universe make up the heart of this game, and they play a more significant role in the progression than before. The returning cast of characters feel both familiar and fresh, as they come with deepened backstories and conflicts. The glorious action RPG blend of real-time tactical turn-based combat, that's a mouthful, returns from Remake, boasting a slick new synchro system alongside other new mechanics, culminating what feels like the perfection of this style of fighting. Especially coming off the more arcadey feeling combat of last year's Final Fantasy XVI, it was invigorating to return to this in-depth combat style. While the team may be familiar and the combat is polished, the way the game's world is designed is the most jarring change. No more narrow linear levels designed sparingly. No, instead the hub world is broken out into multiple sprawling open worlds rich with life, enemies, missions, and discoveries to endlessly seek out. The sheer scale of the world is breathtaking, and it's a world that is worth exploring. But a game's world is more than just activities. Like a legend passed down through generations, Final Fantasy VII Remake saw some significant changes to the beloved RPG's original story. In an ambitious desire to create something new, a timeline unshackled from the originals, Rebirth's rollercoaster ride of a story is as exhilarating as it is convoluted. Even at its most dense storytelling, Rebirth's story is equal parts family drama and world-ending action. I won't get into the details of the story here, because I really do believe that you should just experience it yourself. At the core of this is the characters. The whole team is back, even bringing in some new recruits. While I think Remake had a hard time not relying on legacy to make its characters' relationships make sense, Rebirth is a very different story. Cloud and Tifa have history together, and that history complicates their current relationship. Barrett has old unhealed traumas. Aerith has had her memories taken away from her, and she's struggling with what has to come next. All these players feel more connected and their bonds feel more real as a result. Look, when Jesse died in the remake, it was hard to take it seriously because Cloud said shit like,
"You owe me a pizza."
Rebirth's dialogue isn't always the best, but the team has come a long way from sounding so detached. Excellent voice acting and impressive visuals backed by an emotional score really sell the devastation or the joy or any other needed emotion throughout this game's enormous runtime, though there are still a ton of anime grunts and scoffs. Another major player in making the adventure of Avalanche special is the great ways the game's overplayed open-world design shirks the dusty facade of its contemporaries. There are 6 total regions, each being an expansive open world on their own, with unique enemies, environments, story beats, and secrets to uncover. I can't say for certain, but the way that the game subtly guides you and entices you to explore is very reminiscent of Ghost of Tsushima. Birds call to you to lead you toward a new discovery, chocobo chicks guide you to rest stops, and even the tower system used to analyze the area does not feel like it's adding needlessly busy work to the map. Then there's the art direction here. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is hands down the most gorgeous RPG I have ever played, and they have really realized the visuals represented in Advent Children. If you haven't seen it, you should go watch it. It's pure 2006 goodness. Vibrant life dots the grasslands far from the reaches of Shinra's industrialization, yet you can still find pieces of man-made influence on the ecosystem. The wastelands are a dilapidated, harsh landscape, one that is being sucked dry of its life force, covered in cracking rock, massive piping, and arid wildlife. Rebirth's strength of design is in the way that it ties the world into the theme of environmental preservation. You can see the direct effects of draining the Maku from the planet. This continues into and is present in every single one of these biomes. And backing that message is the people who inhabit this land. You travel from city to village to small farm, assisting people just fighting to survive in a world that is dying. As you help these people hear their stories and see the good in them, the true message of the game comes through. This is not just any world. It's a world worth saving, with people worth protecting. And to do that, you're going to have to take on whatever destiny lies ahead of you. Those side quests that populate every area of the game are worth diving into. Instead of the classic and tired fetch quest or escort mission, these are deep, multi-objective missions. Having this extra depth means not only are the stories being told more personable, but you also get a chance to explore a region through the lens of someone living there. I loved assisting Sam the dog in his delivery or helping to recapture runaway chocobos for the local chocobo farm. Many of these stories will also strengthen your bond with members of your party, providing further insight into what makes them tick. And that bond is important as every member of the team has a friendship bar. If you want to be able to date Tifa or Aerith, you're going to have to be careful with what you say and do, especially when it comes to critical side story and mainline missions. Likewise, some of the later game side quests add context and depth that should be mandatory for you to fully grasp this universe. Aside from the side adventures, Rebirth is practically bursting with minigames. You can find some sort of minigame in every location here, which is great for giving you a variety of fun stuff to do, but not so great in that I spent a stupid amount of time becoming the God King of Queen's Blood. Queen's Blood is the now mandatory in all RPG card game within the game. Like Gwent before it, I became obsessed with becoming undefeatable, taking on any who would dare to stand against me. And likewise, I took to the piano rhythm game with great pleasure, learning the pieces of music that make up the game's own score, which does beg the question of whether or not Tifa knows that she has her own theme, because she can learn to play it. Where does she think that music came from? Wait, do they hear the game soundtrack in the game world? Is that why Cloud does the Final Fantasy victory tune sometimes? Can they hear the boss music as it's approaching?
You okay?
My head hurts. Anyway, there are many exquisite side games to track down, and I highly recommend literally all of them. On the combat front, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth has perfected its blended action RPG tactical fighting. You can have up to 3 members in your party in combat and 2 that assist from outside if needed, meaning that team composition plays a significant role here. Remake had an excellent flow to its dance of magic and melee, but Rebirth has taken it to astonishing new heights, adding extra emphasis and weight with every hit. Every character has a main attack mode and an alternate attack. For instance, Tifa has a series of martial arts strikes and a swift uppercut as her alt. Additionally, there are abilities like Braver, spells like Fyra, and now Synchro moves. The flow between this cavalcade of battering options is butter smooth. Swapping in and comboing off spells into a heavy attack feels exhilarating every single time. It's so satisfying to pull off a perfect combo, which is partly because the combat feels tighter. I always felt like I was in a fight, never just blowing through enemies. I always barely scraped by the skin of my teeth. You can also control your teammates by calling out actions for them to perform or just swapping to them directly. This team combat makes picking abilities that complement each other crucial for many of the larger scaled fights. Boss fights are suitably grandiose in both scale and sheer awesomeness. These massive foes won't be felled by mere button mashing, so you'll need to learn about them and take advantage of the returning pressure and stagger system, find out what they're weak against or what it takes to stagger them, and then beat them down collectively.
Hey, did you see me in action?
Again, I won't spoil any of those fights here, but I have had plenty of close fights in these encounters, and especially with some of the optional bosses. Final Final Fantasy VII Rebirth has successfully sated my fears of what is to come, building off the incredible skeleton of Remake and expanding into something wholly new. Few developers could have pulled off not only making a best-in-class action RPG, but also making an incredible retooling of a world so beloved by its fans, delivering heart-pounding action that is as challenging as it is complex, deeply connected lore, and a world begging for you to discover it, plus a story that delivers on nearly every promise it made. I still have so much left to discover, so I won't be putting this one down for a long time. This is, in my opinion, the best Final Fantasy game ever made, and arguably the greatest RPG I have ever played. A masterclass in how to do it.
Here, take it.
Final Fantasy VII Rebirth gets a 10. For Hardwired, I'm Andrew Hamilton.